Hello, everyone, and welcome to another one of our graduate case study reviews. I'm Dr. Rebecca Troy, and I am so excited to guide you through a review that I think is pretty unique. I have to say that this case in particular has got a ton of really special features to it. So today we're going to be celebrating sisters Paprika, age 9, and Joy Song, age 12, who went through the program at the hand of their grandmother, Rylene. And so we'll talk about all of their data in just a moment, but just to give you some of the highlights. The girls went from being 76 and 80% accurate with phonological awareness to 90% accurate. Their wide range achievement test 5 reading scores. Hold on to your seats because this never happens. They both started at the first percentile, completely unable to do what we would consider to be basic things in decoding, and both of them, one 99.9th percentile, one 99.8th percentile by the end of the course. And so I want to just highlight that it is very rare for a child to go all the way from the first percentile to the 99th, but yet to have two children do that, to have them both be sisters, I think that's absolutely incredible. So I am really excited to share that with you. Also, had huge gains in spelling, which we'll talk about momentarily, but Rylene said we were praying for a miracle and we felt like this program was our miracle. From wanting to be an engineer to telling me she didn't need to learn to read, and now she wants to be a writer and travel all over the world writing about different cultures. They have certainly had a ton of transformation. So I'm just going to really quickly mute everybody just so that we have, oh, yay. And I see Rylene is here. I see you're here, Ramona. Thank you for being here. I will give you guys the opportunity, since you are here and this is about you, to be able to share as much as you like throughout this process. But just for anybody else who is here, so that you understand a little bit more about the context that we're talking about. Everything that we are about to discuss is something that happened at home for both Paprika and Joy Song. So we do allow families to have access to what our cutting edge neuroscience techniques in their home. And so everything that we're about to describe happened within 10 to 15 minutes a day. Families do have the ability to extend those things longer, especially if they're homeschooling, but all that is required by us is to do that 10 to 15 minutes a day. And so that is what we're talking about in this context. So as we dive in, I do want to just start us out with a common understanding of what dyslexia is, because I think that this can often be confused. So on the screen, you will see an fMRI of two brains side by side. The one on the left is a non-dyslexic person, and the one on the right is a person with dyslexia during a language task. And that's an important distinction, because if we were to look at these two brains side by side during another context, we really wouldn't notice anything incredibly different. But when we ask for a language task, such as, hey, read this paragraph, decode this word, spell this word, write an essay, we're asking for the brain to do language-related activities. And when we do, you can see that there is a significant difference in how these two brains are performing. So in the non-dyslexic person, we have activity in this back part of the brain that we call the occipital lobe, and we also have activity in the parietal temporal lobes over the ear, where we hear and process language. But when you look at the person with dyslexia, this area of the brain is underdeveloped. And so for a lot of cases, this is underdeveloped genetically. That means that it's heritable. You got it from somebody in your family, but it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with whether or not they try or they want to try. It's simply that the brain does not activate in the same way when we are coming across the language. So what that could look like is I'm trying to read a word and I might get the first letter or two. And then because my brain doesn't know how to connect letters and sounds, I'm going to guess at the rest. I'm not sure. what it means.
Right.
Oops, I'm gonna have to
Is that better than this one?
oh, thank you. Perfect. Thank you for that. So then the other thing that you'll notice is that if the child is trying to spell something, they might add a letter in or omit a letter that should have been there. Again, not because they're not trying, but because their brain is simply not connecting letters and sounds. And so this is the same information, but on an EEG. Again, you'll see a typical reader versus a reader with dyslexia. And again, it's just an underdevelopment in how the brain is able to connect letters and sounds. But here is the part that I think is the most important. Through this process, it is possible to have the brain change through repetition, through the process of neuroplasticity. So you can actually train the brain to connect letters and sounds so that when a child is reading, so that when a child is spelling, they are able to decode through those things successfully. They are able to spell by sound 100% of the time. And so that's really what we're talking about today, is what happened when we did this process with both Paprika and Joy Song. So Rylene and Ramona are here on the call, so I will give you ladies the opportunity to just kind of share. I have taken some of the notes from our interview and put them here, but I think it would be so valuable for everyone here to be able to hear directly from you if you ladies are willing. So I'm going to just unmute you if you'd like to share, ladies, and if you would like
Sure.
to just give any of your thoughts on this, please feel free.
Sure. One of the things, can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. One of the things that you've just said is that there's a miracle that occurs when the brain can connect again. It does occur after we do some of the work.
Mhm.
We have to put in the work, but it's amazing how the cells of the body just go ahead and respond to that. And we've seen that happen. It's just been amazing. The other thing I wanted to say is when we first started, we talked with Ann Simonson. She's the one who first contacted us, and we had a long talk, several long talks with her. And I have to admit, I was a little bit apprehensive because of the cost. And I thought, how can this be worth that? You know, I'd been teaching for so many years, and I thought I knew enough that I could just figure it out myself. And I was very surprised by all that you offered. It was well worth it. It has, I just want to affirm again for anybody else who might listen, it was well worth it. We thought we knew what to do with these girls. We thought we knew about reading. We've been reading for years. But this was a whole different ballgame. And the way you presented it, little by little, so gentle, so compassionate, so understanding of what they were going through, the emotional trauma they had been through, and just the constant encouragement. And like I've said before, it took us longer than others to go through the program, but we had to take our time because that's what was needed. And instead of rushing through and panicking and trying to finish a course because somebody else set a date, you
Yep.
know, which is not wrong because we all need that. But it was so stressful to the girls that we had already tried to set dates and say, well, you've got to do this. And that was just too much pressure. And that's why we've had the meltdowns we had. We had to recover. So the first, I don't know, probably the first 2 or 3 months was just mostly recovering.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So I'll just share some of the points, and ladies, if you would like to add anything alongside of this, please feel free. But you know, from our discussion, I learned that the girls did have severe dyslexia with them both testing at the first percentile in reading. And so in this situation, Ramona actually had moved back from Hawaii to get Ramona's help. Sorry, Rylene's help, I'm sorry.
Yes.
To make sure that she was able to get specific help with teaching the girls to read. So in a homeschooling environment, it can be really, really stressful. You are the one responsible for all the learning. A lot of that learning, if they're going to be doing that independently, involves the child being able to read. And so for both of the girls, that experience was not positive. It was highly stressful. You know, Joy Song was often curled up in the fetal position, crying, not wanting to read. It caused extreme stress and difficulty as obviously the homeschool requires a lot of reading.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, Rylene, just a moment ago, you do have experience teaching phonics and you did that extensively to other children, but it was still puzzling, like, what is going on? Clearly, it's not that we're not trying. It's not that we're not, you know, trying different curriculums and doing things to attempt to make this work. Clearly you were, but it just was not moving along. And so something that you shared, I thought was really powerful because I think other families can certainly resonate with this, but Joy Song had declared that she needed to learn to read and she'd figure out
Yeah.
something to make money without reading. And I
Yeah.
I resonate with that, and I'm sure so many others do too, because especially as you enter into your teen years, if that's still not successful for you to be able to read and spell, you start to think like, well, maybe I'm never going to do this. And that negative self-talk creeps in and that self-worth kind of diminishes. And I know that you had shared that she was actually battling depression at a very
Mhm.
young age. So you mentioned, you know, it was difficult for Paprika to read basic words like cat. There was perfectionism issues that made making a mistake really difficult, which coupled with the fact that the brain is really not connecting letters and sounds and you're a perfectionist, like that is not a great combination. You mentioned that the girls felt stupid despite being very
Mhm.
intelligent in other
Yeah.
areas. um, and so I guess, ladies, is there anything else that you would like to add from what is here?
Yes, I think a big part of the problem with Joy Song was that she really wanted to do so many
Yes.
wonderful things.
She's a planner. So
She
she has her entire life planned out.
and
Bless her.
and to be a
Yeah.
computer programmer or an engineer, all these things she wanted
Make
to do.
movies, tell stories.
She's
Like she's,
already doing some of that, and
yeah.
but the hindrance was she thought she could just find out how to do those things by listening to something,
Hmm.
but the truth was she really needed to read to find out what they weren't saying.
Right.
So now, as she goes to the library and she brings back all these encyclopedias about certain games and how they
I'm
work,
amazed that she's picking out encyclopedias. Like she's devouring an entire encyclopedia.
there
And we found out there's a
Can't
limit on
wait to talk about this part.
there's a limit on how many books you can check out at a time. I had no idea until my daughter checked out 50 and wanted more.
Wow.
She's
That
just
is an awesome,
unbelievable.
awesome problem
Yeah.
to have.
Yes.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that they wrote encyclopedias for children to be able to read. You know,
On that
I'm
level.
older.
Yeah.
The encyclopedias I have read were more adult,
Wow.
written for adults, but she's devouring these and so proud of the fact that she can.
Okay, we got to get to the good parts, ladies. So I wanted to, hey, we're naturally going there and I want to get there. So I think it's just helping people to see. I know, thank you to all of you that have joined us today. And I hope that you can see yourself or your child in these stories, because your child is no different than where Paprika and Joy Song were. You know, having incredible intelligence, having the desire to do more, having to experience school in some way. And for this particular family, you know, it was a homeschool environment, which can be very, very difficult. Like you've got a lot of shame, you've got a lot of overwhelm, you've got responsibility. Like this is all on me. I'm having to do this and it's not working. And
Yeah.
so I think, you know, certainly those of you here can resonate with that. It a couple of other things that I want to just kind of bring out that you've shared is that Joy Sung could write stories in her head, but she needed somebody else to physically write them down. Letters were often written upside down or backward. It was the extreme panicking as a parent, not knowing what to do, knowing that they needed one-on-one, knowing that they needed help, knowing that you probably couldn't get that in a classroom somewhere, and yet you don't know what to do. Like, what is the step by step? What do I need to do? Certainly, I've tried many, many things, but I don't yet know what is next. And so, as you mentioned, that even starting the program, getting started was difficult. They used tactile elements. You tried to make learning fun. You tried to bring laughter into the scenarios to break apart the intense frustration and the stress. But from those early moments on, I know you said a few times that when Joy Sung discovered that she could remember all 9 of the colors, it blew her mind. She started telling herself that she did have a good brain. She could remember. And then from then on, that big mindset shift really had a huge impact. So let's talk about the good stuff, because this is my favorite part. Like what is the impact on a real human life when you make these neurological changes, when you can help the brain to connect letters and sounds? What did it look like before, and how does it look like now? So ladies, rather than read this to you, like, would you like to share some of the things that you're most celebrating about what life looks like for the girls now?
Oh my goodness. There's such a big difference. They're happier.
Yes.
They're more confident.
Yeah.
They are usually eager to learn. They've had a little vacation for the Christmas holidays, and we got back into school. Paprika just graduated from 3rd grade last night.
Good for
we
her.
had a big celebration. She's ready for a tiny break before we go on.
Yeah. They were behind in their grades because of not being able to read. And
Yeah.
so we've been catching up, honestly.
Joy Sung will be celebrating her graduation of 5th grade at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And is eager to get back into 6th grade, because now she sees she can begin. Guess what? In her curriculum, she can begin learning at just the first stages of computer programming.
Yeah. And she wants that. I'm an artist. I would not want to do that.
Good for her. Good for her. And I think the point is that it doesn't really matter. And I know that you ladies wouldn't care what it is that she decided to do. You just want her to be happy and feel like the opportunities are open and endless. So I think as parents, that's the best that we can hope for our kids, right? That I've given you every opportunity to do what it is that you want. I don't care if you want to be a neuroscientist or if you want to be, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But to have your happiness, to have you feel like you're doing the work that's meaningful to you is critical.
Yes, I think you asked us some time ago what our goals were, and mine was just simple. I just wanted them to be able to read. I would have just been satisfied with that. So to see all of this on top of it is just
I wanted them
amazing.
to love learning, and they do now. They love learning. They read for fun all the time. Like if we're not doing school or we're not doing, something with them, I find them in a corner reading their books.
Yeah, we were playing a game as a family during the Christmas holidays, and when it wasn't her turn, Joy Sung was reading her book.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I grew up. Like we love reading as a family, and that's probably why it hurts so bad, is that's one of my great enjoyments. It relaxes me, and it opens the world up, and there's so unlimited amount of things you can do when you know how to read.
Yeah. You can go anywhere in the whole world through reading. You never have to leave your home.
Oh, ladies, I am so happy for you. Okay, so I just want to pull out a couple of other things that you shared that I think could be helpful for others. So one thing that I do believe is very, very helpful about the way we are able to give you support is that it happens at home and you can reduce the stress. So I know from my own children, I mean, oftentimes you're worried about the kid that's sitting next to you and what are they doing on their paper? And oh, I have to leave the classroom and I'm leaving the classroom for this many minutes. And how come they're not leaving the classroom? And there starts to be all of this shame and embarrassment and all of that. And in this case, nobody even has to know, like this can happen in the privacy of your own home. And the benefit neurologically is that it allows the body to reduce in cortisol. So whenever we have inflammation in the brain, when we're highly stressed, when we're in fight or flight, our brain isn't working as well as we would want it to be. And so by having the girls at home, by making it fun, by having the laughter, by, removing that stress, it not only helped you to get through the modules, but it helped the brain to be able to learn too. So I think that that's just a worthwhile point to make. Anything that you want to add on that?
Yes,
We both do. Go ahead.
One thing I learned about homeschooling when Ramona started having difficulties, she was in a private school for the first 3 grades, and we ended up pulling her out, we didn't realize we were going to, but the need was there for one-on-one instruction. And so I went through some courses to teach me how to do it because I really didn't know how to get started. And it was brought up that when there's a group of children, there's nothing wrong with school. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with school, but the tendency is that a teacher is spewing out information like little droplets of rain. And the droplets drop on various children and they grasp those particular droplets. But a one who is needing one-on-one instruction and has already missed something in the basics, it's going to be mystery to that child.
A daydreamer like I was.
Yeah, she'd be looking out the window.
Whistling,
humming, and not even knowing she was humming. The teacher would come back, who is humming? Please stop the humming.
And I'm like,
she
I
was
wonder
unaware.
who's humming, and I didn't realize it was me. So, yeah.
So the benefit of home educating is that you do have that one-on-one. It's the benefit of tutoring. So if a child in school needs tutoring, why not just teach them at home through the whole grade? Then they get the one-on-one the first time instead of having to keep repeating it, although repetition is sometimes very useful. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, what I was going to say was when we first started this program, the girls were so especially my oldest is such a perfectionist, that failure was such a big deal, and I couldn't get her to relax. And so one of the things that we ended up doing that really helped was I became another student, and I found out I was dyslexic. We didn't know I was dyslexic. And so having the girls watch her teach me and having me do the different assignments, and I was messing up and I laughed and we just made it funny, they relaxed and it took the pressure off and we all just started laughing. And so I just thought that was something to add, that sometimes you have to enact, I can mess up too and it's okay. So
it's better to see it happen than to just be told.
Yes. Yeah.
100%. And so, I think something worth bringing up is that parents and families know their children. You've spent more time with them than anybody else on the planet. And so I think for each family, you do have the ability to personalize it for what is going to work, what is going to speak to them in a way that's going to be powerful. So a couple of other things that I want to just bring to light is that you both said that the weekly coaching calls were encouraging. Coach Susie providing specific help and guidance. So for those of you that are a little bit unfamiliar with the way that we do things, we believe that mindset is just as important as skill set. And so we do have mindset coaches on the team that do provide support. And so I know both of you said that was really, really helpful for you. Having the community aspect helps you to feel less alone. Being able to celebrate your small victories became a family theme. You were able to change some of that identity language to I am a reader and I can read, and definitely being able to hear the questions of others and the situations of theirs. definitely helped you to get through difficult days. So anything that you would like to add related to that?
Coach Susie knew the exact question to ask us that made us stop and think why our mindset was causing a reaction in the children.
Yeah.
We really needed that.
Yeah.
We had to identify that. And from that, we have been able to grow our own exponentially growing questions to ask ourselves deeper questions that changed our mindsets. And we've grown ourselves now so that the children can see we still have more work to do with the negativity.
all of us, all the time.
But it really, really helped. In fact, I brought it up again yesterday. We had a family meeting about where we're going, where we're headed with training the children in not just reading and curriculum, but in life management. And as we were talking, I brought up one of the things that Coach Susie brought up to Ramona. It was just this one question: who's driving the bus?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope I'm not divulging one of her tactics. But Ramona drew out this whole page of all the personalities that she had that was driving the bus at any particular time of the day. In situations.
Yeah.
And then I added a whole bunch more because that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Recognize, don't we need to change who's driving our bus right now?
Yeah.
It's a good tool.
Totally. And, thank you for sharing all of this, because I think, especially for those of you listening, it's not just a reading challenge. It is also a mindset challenge. And so you can have skills that have developed and still not believe that you are worthy of those, or still not believe that you are capable of doing more than you're actually now able to do. And it can sabotage what growth that you've had. And so for us, we really believe that building both of those things simultaneously is critical, and having help along the way is also what we believe helps clients to get results. Because if you ask a child to do the thing, or one of the things that is the most difficult for them to do day after day, inevitably you will get resistance, even from the sweetest of children and the greatest of relationships between families. Like, that's just how it is. If we were to think about this like, if we were marathon training, there will be days that you do not want to train for the marathon, but having the accountability, having the support, having the coaching is really what helps you to get through those things. And then also, come out on top with the kind of data that the two of you have been able to secure for the girls. So that's just incredible. So just to kind of share some of the things, and then again, ladies, please feel free to ask, but these are some of the things that you had shared with me from our interview. So Paprika went from barely reading cat to being at the 99th percentile in reading, and that means that she's able to decode words better than 99 out of 100 of her same age peers. So that means the word is in isolation. There are no other pictures. There's no other context. You just have the word in front of you, and how well are you able to decode through that? Now, if the brain was still unable to connect letters and sounds, had we not done that rehabilitation work, we would not see those kinds of gains. Just would not have happened. Both girls showed massive improvements in spelling. Both of them love to read and learn. Joy Song wants to be a writer and travel the world, and sounds like she still wants to be a software engineer, or like all kinds of other things, which is amazing. You mentioned Paprika taking detailed notes during her lessons, writing in her tiny letters. Joy Song wrote a book that you guys professionally bound for her. They asked for books for Christmas. They're secretly reading your books at bedtime. They're regular visitors to the library, ordering books online. And so I also heard you say they've just got confidence in learning abilities, comfort with making mistakes, joy in the learning process, independence with schoolwork, and they self-identify as readers and writers now. So anything else, ladies, that you'd like to add to this amazing, amazing transformation?
No, it's just been an amazing journey. We've learned so much about it, about ourselves and about them. And thank you again. Just thank you.
And the depression, I don't see any. That was huge. That was huge.
Significant. Life altering for sure. Amazing. Okay. So Yeah, and then just a couple of other things I think, Rylene, that you both had shared, but you had some advice for others about not giving up and sticking with it and reducing stress and pressure, celebrating small victories, focusing on effort rather than perfection, um, getting support. And so I just think that it's really, I hope that today that it gives you hope and encouragement that things are possible even when you have an extreme case. So being at the first percentile is pretty much as extreme as we can get. So it was not easy for either of the girls to be reading or spelling at all. And so to know that it is possible to be on the other side of this, to have some of those emotional struggles, the academic struggles, the dreams for your life struggles um, kind of evaporate within a year's time is pretty incredible. So I'm super excited and grateful that you are both here to be able to share this from your own perspective too.
We're
Anything else?
celebrating. We're celebrating. That
lot.
was
Yeah.
my big word. One of my big takeaways from the program was the fact that you always ask us to celebrate first before asking questions. And sometimes I was in tears and I couldn't even talk. And I would think, what on earth do we have to celebrate? We are in the midst of this terrible forest, this storm, you know. And but then as I heard the other parents that share just a little bit, and you would say, well, just the fact that you're here is worthy of celebrating. And I think, oh my, yeah, okay, I can celebrate that I'm here. Can't celebrate
Yep.
more than that, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And we're still trying. And I'm getting emotional again right now. It's so real thinking back on that. And to see where we've come now, we are celebrating. We celebrated last night, the whole family. We were clapping. We dressed her up in my college graduation gown.
Cute.
Marched down the hall and we clapped and we had the graduation music going and presented her with her certificate. And next week we'll be doing the same thing with Joy Song.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're celebrating.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that. And it's I think, my goodness, there's so many things to stack on what you've said, but when you are grateful and you practice gratitude just in general, it reduces cortisol. It gives you all kinds of very, very positive neurological things. But it's also important when you're going through a difficult journey. So if you're running a marathon and you only celebrate when you cross that finish line, you've missed the entire journey. And so it's important that for every one of those milestones, for every one of the miles that you complete, you say, thank goodness we did that. And look at, there's something that I can be grateful for here. And so we really do coach and encourage you to do that, because not only does it help you, but it helps your kiddo and it helps your mindset and it helps so many things. So thank you for bringing that up. I really think that's positive. So just really quickly, for people that are interested in data and statistics and all of these things, I want to just share with you the snapshot of what this looked like, and I'll walk you through what it meant in terms of numbers. So when we look at, we'll start with Paprika first, 9 years old. When we look at this initial phonological baseline assessment that she took, she was 76% accurate. So not the most difficult test score that we've ever seen, but certainly not easy for her. And this was able to make a major leap, getting to the 90% accurate point by the time she was done. But that looked pretty similar. Joy Song was actually a little bit more proficient at this than Paprika was to start, but also great gains in that phonological awareness piece. And then the next bit that we're going to talk about is stuff that's on a normal distribution scale. So what you're looking for right now is this middle line at the 50th percentile. And then you can see that there are these lines that go up from the mean. So these are called standard deviations above the mean. And then these 3 lines, 1, 2, 3 here are standard deviations below the mean. So when we're talking about averages and how kids are performing, there have been scholars for decades that have looked at what an average performance is for a kiddo in an entire academic year. So just imagining that a kiddo would start at the 50th percentile. If they completed an entire academic year, we know that the average growth is a 0.3 of a standard deviation. So this would be a 1.0 if we went all the way from this line to this line. But a 0.3 is what typically happens if you start 3rd grade and you end 3rd grade. So whenever you're dealing with a child that might be behind, it's really, really important to ask yourself, is what I'm about to do going to make my child grow more than what is average? Because inevitably you have to catch them up. So you're looking to close gaps. You're looking for more than typical growth because that's what's needed to help them get back on track. So when we look at studies and variables that have moderate statistical significance, it's a 0.5, or we move the data halfway to the next standard deviation. But when something is statistically significant, it's a 0.8 or higher. So you make it almost from this line to the next one at that 0.8 mark. That's when we know with confidence statistically that whatever the variable is had a positive statistical impact on the subject, if that makes sense. So when we look at what happened with Paprika, this is just unbelievable when we look at this statistically. So here's where she started at this 1st percentile. And if she would have made what an average kiddo would have made in an entire year, she would have gone from this red to the yellow. But you know that oftentimes kids with dyslexia make less progress than their peers. And so it kind of feels like you stay the same. So you might grow from here to right here, but it's barely, like you can see something happened, but not anything that is wild or significant. If the program would have had a statistically significant impact on Paprika, meaning that we know with confidence that the program had a positive statistical impact, she would have been at this brown dot. But instead, she went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 standard deviations from where she started, which statistically speaking is like unheard of. So this is incredible. This is super, super powerful. This almost never happens to go from 1 to 99.9 like that. Holy cow. Then it not only happened once, but it happened twice.
Yeah.
So Joy Song also did the same thing. So she started here at that 1st percentile. Again, if she would have made what kind of growth a 12-year-old would have been expected to make, she would have moved here. Statistically significant would have been here. Again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and nearly 5 standard deviations of growth pre to post. Again, this is in the span of a year. So I know you probably heard Rylene mention this. Maybe you didn't pick up on it, so I'll just highlight this bit. A lot of times we have clients that go through the program within that 4-month, 16-week interval. In this case, life happened. And there were some things that moving and other things that caused it to be a little bit more on their timeline, which is okay. Still, I think what we're talking about here is that within a year, this happened. And so we're not talking about like multiple years of like going through the program and all of this thing. This is still an incredible, incredible score for the time frame that we're talking about. Statistically, this never happens. So then when we look at spelling typically is slower to develop than reading. That's all very normal. Again, that score started at the 1st percentile. Had she made the typical growth in spelling that would have been average for the year, it would have been here. Again, statistically significant would have been here. She jumped to the 30th percentile, which again is nearly 2 standard deviations of growth. Here's what's also really powerful. She had 22 other words that she had all of the sounds represented for. And when I say that they're difficult words, I mean, they're things like malfeasance, camouflage, belligerent, stationary, charlatan, pusillanimous. I mean, like, these are big words. And she had all of the sounds there. So maybe she was 1 or 2 letters off with the pattern that she chose, but had those patterns been right, the spelling would have been at the 99th percentile too. So tremendous, tremendous growth in spelling. Joy Song also had tremendous growth in spelling. It's going to look slightly different because she's a little bit older. And so what happens is there are more kids that have had an opportunity to advance in spelling. So her scores were actually similar, but because she's older, it looked a little bit smaller on the scale. But she went from this first percentile to the 10th percentile, which numerically you might think, oh, that doesn't seem like that much. Statistically speaking, it's still a standard deviation and a half nearly. So it's still humongous growth. To have happen. Again, same thing. She had 31 of those words that she had all of the sounds represented. So again, just a little bit more work in spelling patterns, and that is going to be right at the 99th percentile as well. So what's positive and what I see as a clinician is that we've taught the brain how to hear all of the sounds consistently and accurately, even in really, really difficult multisyllabic words that they've never heard before. And now it's just figuring out like, okay, this word should have had an AI and instead I put an AY. I knew the sound, but I put the wrong pattern. So that's something that they are working on now and something that I think can be done quite easily once you've done this big work at the beginning. So I do want to celebrate Rylene. I will celebrate Ramona right along with it. She mentioned this at the beginning, and I just want to say it out loud because this is not a magic wand. There is nothing about this that is just like poof, and then it happens. She maintained daily consistency with the program. She had a deep belief that this was possible. If you believe that your child is not going to make it and you don't think that they have what it takes, that is what will happen. Do you know what I'm saying? So it is really, really important to not only believe that they're capable of more, but to do the work. She leaned into the coaching and she was there not only to learn from me and get coaching on the strategy, but she was there for coaching on the mindset with Coach Susie. She made learning fun and celebrated the small wins for the girls. She went full in that neuroplasticity can work. She was decisive, coachable, resourceful. She followed the process. And Rylene said, I would recommend this program to anybody. Everybody needs to be on here. So ladies, would you like to add anything else now that we've gone through some of the data?
It's just even more amazing now that you've presented it that way.
I know. I started kind of getting teary-eyed again. I'm just like, when I remember where we were and I see where we are, it's
yeah. I'm working with them now on spelling. So
yes,
so we've jumped into the next phase.
Yep, that's right.
And they pull out their spelling books and they eagerly write down the words that I give them. And because they have the confidence to try now.
Yeah.
And then I can show them the patterns as I see where they are.
Yeah.
And we look at the patterns and we try again the next day. And they make different mistakes the next day. But
they're using but confusing, and that's developmentally appropriate. All of that is very normal.
Right.
But
okay. They're okay with mistakes.
Yeah, they're
now.
not crying. They're
not
frustrated. They're not stopping.
Yeah.
They know that they are achieving and that it's not wrong to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That was another huge monumental thing that they finally caught.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you again.
Amazing. Okay, so you might think like, okay, is this, yes, these girls did amazing. Could that ever happen for me? In fact, this does happen all of the time. So when we're talking about like what an average kiddo would do in a school year, this is what is statistically significant. This is what our average graduate does, is they're going double what would be statistically significant. And we do track every age range. We've got all of the numbers. We track every graduate at every moment. So we know exactly how those numbers are shaping up. But as of right now, we are 46.2 points of difference from start to finish overall for all of the graduates. So it's something that we're super proud of. But what it tells us is that it's true that all of our families have a different makeup. You know, sometimes it's a mom, sometimes it's a grandma, sometimes it's, you know, shared custody between parents. Sometimes it's with a girl, sometimes it's with a boy, sometimes a teen, sometimes a 6-year-old. They're varying differences in how the program is implemented from family to family. But what this tells us is that the core of what we're doing neurologically is sound because it is having a significant impact statistically, family over family over family, despite all of the changes and the differences between them. So if you're interested in educational statistics and you want to dig into all of these effect sizes and how amazing what we just shared is, there is a citation down here. A researcher out of New Zealand has done meta-analyses, which are studies of studies, to find out what are the most 252 biggest influences and effect sizes related to student achievement. The top one right here, you can't see it, but it's a 1.5. So the girls were at a 5 something. Like, so we would be like way up at the top of this list in terms of the influences that can affect student achievement. So we're super proud of that. But if you do want to dig in, here's a citation for you to be able to do that. So again, you know, when we think about why it's critical to close the gap, there would have been, had Rylene and Ramona not dug in, there would have been missed opportunities for those girls, whether that was academic or whether it was socially or, you know, just even related to their own mindset. Current and ongoing struggles would have pervaded. So the meltdowns, the curling up on the floor, the depression, things that are really, really heavy would have continued on. Future opportunities might not have been the same. Certainly they would not have been checking out junior encyclopedias to learn about coding. Within a year. And so I think it is also important to acknowledge who else suffers because of this. Oftentimes people have the impression that it's just the child with dyslexia that is suffering, and that is not true at all. Everybody in that house that is dealing with the learning of that child is in suffering too, whether that is I've just spent 3 hours trying to get through this homework, or we have spent the last 3 years trying to move just the tiniest little bit. There is a lot of struggle and suffering that happens. And so whenever you are making decisions about what to do for your child and how to move them forward, a critical question to ask yourself is, how do I close the gap? How do I make greater than typical progress so that we can get closer and closer to exactly where we need to be, so that our beliefs can change, so that our potential can change, so that we can take different actions and get different results, which ultimately changes the course of a life. It can improve academic performance. It can increase self-esteem and confidence. It increases mental health, gives greater access to opportunities. So with that, I do want to just tell you that if you are somebody here and you're still trying to figure that out, it is not always easy to know. If you're over worrying, is this normal? Should I be concerned that they're writing letters backwards? You know, it seems like we've got something going on. I'm not really sure. We do these dyslexia discovery workshops every so often. We actually have one coming up on the 30th of this month. And we do that because we want to give you 3 simple tools that will take you about 20 minutes to administer so that you can find out for sure if dyslexia is something that you're dealing with. You don't have to go get a full neuropsych evaluation and pay thousands to do that. You can do that from the comfort of your own home within 20 minutes, and we'll guide you through step by step how to do that to figure out if that's really what you're dealing with. So if that's something that you need, please leave us a comment or send us a message. You can email support@retrainthedyslexicbrain.com and we'll help you to get those next steps started. And if you are also somebody sitting here saying, oh my goodness, we are the family that you're talking about. We've been doing something for the last several years. It's barely moving us forward. We hear that all of the time. That is not uncommon. Or you could be somebody that just got a diagnosis. Maybe this is brand new. Holy cow, what do we do? We would invite you to speak with somebody on our team to see whether or not you would be a candidate. We offer those things complimentary to just see if what we do and what you need are a match. And if so, we'll walk you through the process of what that could look like. So if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to leave us a note and we'll happily get you set up with somebody. So with that, we do have just a couple of minutes here. Would anybody like to ask any questions? Okay. Maybe I'll wait.
Some more comments.
Yes, please.
While you were just talking about that, it dawned on me that I have not seen Joy Song write upside down or backwards at all in a long time. And I had not even worked on that since last year when we first started the program. I showed both the girls. We did a little bit of work because they just kept writing upside down and backwards, especially the numbers.
Mhm.
But she is writing her math problems so neatly. I was able to celebrate that this week. That's such neat and hard work now. And yet she was writing them neatly, and little Paprika's coming along. And it was just natural. It just came with the program.
Yep. And thank you for sharing that, because we don't specifically work on handwriting, but the areas of the brain responsible for handwriting are very, very close to the areas that we are constantly reinforcing. And so often handwriting does improve significantly through the process of doing the exercises because of the proximity to other areas of the brain. So that's a great point that you brought up. Amazing. Well, Rylene, Ramona, I do want to thank you incredibly for being here to inspire others with your story. I think it's so much more powerful for people to hear it from you than for them to hear it from me. But I hope that for those of you that are here, that you do have hope and inspiration about what's possible. I hope it gives you the opportunity to see the impact on real human lives. And what neurological rehabilitation has got the potential to do when you lean into that support. Holy cow, it's just incredible. So ladies, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. Thank you for being here today. And thanks to everybody who joined us. And if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll put the information in the chat. But again, that's support at Retrain the Dyslexic Brain.com. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks so much. And I will look forward to seeing you. We do these every other week. So please feel free to come back for another celebration in a couple of weeks. Ramona, Rylene, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.